In your book, Brad, Employee Engagement, a Roadmap for Creating Profits, Optimizing Performance, and Increasing Loyalty.
Yes.
This book provides a holistic approach to engagement that will create the competitive edge required to succeed in this economy, especially as we know that employee engagement is very down. I think there was a research by Gallup 2018, or I believe so, that there is only 33% employee engagement, and everyone is struggling to keep employee engaged, retain current talent, or even attract new talent. So
Yes.
in your experience, can you give 3 tips to employers in order to implement employee engagement in their workplace?
Sure. I think engagement is also changing a great deal with a lot of the generational differences and with what's happened in 2008. And I think a lot of people that are measuring it are measuring old models. And so a couple of things that I think really are becoming important. The concept of who you are, why you work as an organization is very important. You need a story to tell.
Mm-hmm, very
I think
much.
a lot of organizations don't. So when you walk in and you talk to employees, you ask why they're there, you get answers like a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
I can pay my bills, a variety of things like that. What you really need to do is you need to give them a real reason for working there. So I worked with a manufacturing company, to give you an example.
Yeah.
And when I went in and I asked them 2 things, I said, what is your mission? And then I asked them why you work here. And then I asked every employee that. The interesting thing is there was no clear mission. People had either no idea what the mission was, or they had different ideas of what the mission was. And some of them were not very good, which was to make a lot of stuff or to make a lot of profit. So the reality is they didn't know why they were there. And when you ask them why they were there, they would say things like paycheck, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
I sat down with the management and I said, you got to give these people a reason for coming to work.
Yes.
Why work here? They can work a lot of places. Why work here? And they said, we don't even know what that reason is. So we spent time really working through it. At the end of the time we worked through it, I asked a lot of questions. I facilitated a lot of conversation. I made them look at their business. It was very interesting. It turned out that they're one of the few companies that manufacture that type of product in the United States. Most of it has been outsourced. 2, most of what they do go into landmarks, buildings, like the Empire State Building, Golden Gate Bridge, right?
Yeah.
And so we started talking, and at the end of the conversation, it was really clear. They were an organization that built and maintains American landmarks using American ingenuity and manufacturing. And that was exciting to them. It made them rethink the way their factory looked. It made them rethink the way they talked with employees. And it was an amazing kind of transformational experience. But the key was, why are we here? So I think that's one thing. You have to define why you're there. I think a second thing is career development is huge.
Yes.
Again, going back to 2008, everyone watched an enormous amount of their friends, parents, relatives laid off.
Yes.
A lot of these people thought they had a great skill set. They thought they could pick up another job. And what ended up happening was they heard 2 things from employers. Your skill set is stale.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing they heard was, I can get somebody to come in who's younger and cheaper.
Wow.
So when you look at that, people are entering the workforce nowadays, realize that they have probably about a 50-year window of work. They have to make income come in from their early 20s all the way probably to about 70, because the people are working longer, right? So you're talking about close to 50 years of work. That being the case, they know that in order to keep income coming in for 50 years, they have to stay competitive. They have to be sharp. They have to be better this year than they were last year. And companies that are investing in their employees and making sure that they are more competitive year after year keep their people longer, because they have the vehicle to say, it's worth me staying, right? Employees don't want to go somewhere else and go stale. So I think development is another key thing you have to start investing in if you haven't invested a lot. And the last thing I would say is, remember that engagement is personal.
Mm-hmm.
Too many companies treat employee engagement like a checklist.
Yes.
We did this, we did that. It really isn't. It's about knowing each one of your employees, knowing what makes them tick, understanding what makes them passionate, connecting them with the things that are important about the organization, building relationships with them, with each other. And once you realize that engagement is personal and you treat it that way, it becomes part of the culture as opposed to an activity, task, or an HR-related initiative. And it doesn't work when it's straightly an HR-related initiative.
So what you're saying is that alignment from the mission to the department should be transparent and should be talked about with every employee. And that comes also with leadership practices. So sometimes leadership has to be aware of what's the mission of the company is, where they're going, and that should be translated in the with employees from each department, so that they know that, let's say if I'm from marketing or if I'm from sales, what I am doing today, I'm helping with the mission of the company, so that there's a relationship, they will understand it. And the second part is, I understand that career development is very important, because we want to work in a company but we also want to get developed. We want to get advanced, because we are not in the same age of we're going to stay in the same company with the same job for the next 50 years. Everyone is changing their job. And also you mentioned that the skill set is also very required, especially nowadays with AI coming. They're talking about the soft skills, their empathy, problem solving. Those are the things also people need to come. So for the older generation, how do you think they should be acquiring the skill set part, since there's a lot of new millennials are coming to the workforce and they have different skill set than the people who are, let's say, 40 and above?
I think it's a great question. And what I would tell you is that I think that we have to look at it in a multi-directional manner. So what I mean by that is, we tend to think that older employees should mentor younger ones, or we have the concept that older employees are no longer relevant. The truth is that older employees bring a skill set that's very important to the organization and a mindset that's very important to the organization. And younger folks bring skill sets and new ideas to the organization. And through the connection and learning and collaboration of people with different backgrounds, experiences, different ages, come great ideas, great process, innovations, and success. So our approach with companies has been to create a multi-directional mentoring effort. We want younger people mentoring older folks. We want older folks mentoring younger folks. And we all have a need to learn. We shouldn't look at it from one perspective or the other.
I agree.